Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's option watch list. Hope you all had a wonderful, relaxing weekend and are looking forward to getting back to trading here come Monday. So before I get into the 5 plays that I'm actually looking at for the upcoming week, I want to do a overall market breakdown on our indices to kind of see where we're at and we could potentially go this upcoming week. So to start off with here, I'll start off with the ES. So this last month has been an interesting period of time. We've been kind of changed out of this bullish trend into now more into a downtrend, making lower lows. But this last week here, we kind of found, I think, is a higher low compared to this one down here that we made, and then we actually closed out at a higher high here on the daily time frame as we surpassed this previous lower high. So this could be the start to a turn in the tide from this downtrend potentially into either a consolidation phase where we're paying back and forth between, let's say, these lows and this previous resistance high here. We could ping back and forth there, or we could start to break out back to these all-time highs and try to retest those levels. If we look down here, we can see that this daily squeeze is gaining that bullish momentum. So my ideal situation that we have happen here is we actually get a retest of this 21 EMA, and if we can hold that level, I think that'd be a great time to actually start potentially getting long, because we could start making our move back up to those highs as we have had quite a bit of selling here in the market in the last few months. So that being said, another thing I am keeping my eye out is on the weekly time frame. The ES is basically closed right at its 21 weekly EMA. Another thing to note here is that the momentum on the squeeze histogram is starting to rotate out of bearishness, which means that we could potentially recapture this 21 EMA on the weekly time frame, and if we do, that would make me much more bullish on the overall market as a whole. So this upcoming week is a very important one because either we hold this level to the upside or we reject it once again like we have been in the past here, and we could see more selling, which could retest these previous lows. So that's definitely the biggest thing that I'm watching this entire week, is to see where we do close at on the weekly time frame, because I think that will be very telling going forward if we will be bullish or if we will be bearish. So that being said, we can go on. Qs have a similar story here. Uh, Big downtrend, kept rejecting the 21 EMA here multiple times. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, and we basically kept rejecting to the downside until this last week we finally recaptured that level and started pushing higher off of that. Similar to the ES, we do have a daily squeeze setting up here. Its histogram is still below that 0 line, but its price action is above the 21 EMA. We do not have positively stacked EMAs, so just like the ES, I want to see a retest of this 21 EMA, and if that level holds, that could be a great place to get long as well. And then if we go to a weekly time frame, I think the Qs do have more room actually to the upside to go retest that 21 EMA. They are the weaker one out of the indices and they are kind of lagging behind to get to this level, but I think it could easily fill this level potentially this week, and we'll see if it can surpass it or if it gets rejected once again. Just like the ES, we are getting a change in the momentum on the squeeze histogram, which is a good sign, meaning that we could start to make a trek back up to the upside. All right, next one here, we got the Dow. Dow is similar to the rest of them. I mean, you got the large flush, and we're starting to finally recapture these key levels on the daily time frame. Squeeze is looking to fire to the upside just like the ES's is, and just like the ES and the NQ, I do want to see a retest of this 21 EMA. Does not mean it has to happen. We could easily just start shooting right back up to these areas of resistance, and it could retest those before making a reversion back down to the mean, but I ideally want to see that reversion potentially this week. So just like the ES, this one closed basically right at that 21 EMA on the weekly time frame, and just like the ES as well, we have this change in momentum. And that's why this week is so key, because all the indices on the weekly time frame are basically right at key levels that either need to hold or reject for us to see where we're going to continue to go in the upcoming weeks. Alrighty, last but not least on the list here, we got the small caps. And the small caps have been getting hit really hard, and finally we start to find ourselves in a strong consolidation period where we have a strong support down around the 1930-ish area, and then we have this resistance up around the, we'll say, 2075 area, and it looks to potentially start to be breaking out to that upside. This daily squeeze is looking to fire to that upside, so I think that the small caps have been hit down so hard that it is kind of their time to potentially start making a recovery back up into at least where this consolidation phase was. It should go retest these previous lows in my opinion. So that's right around, what is that, 2140-ish. I think we could easily go retest those levels. Now if we look at a weekly time frame, I actually am kind of starting to like this weekly time frame due to this weekly squeeze has completely fired. We've gotten all the momentum pushed out of this to the downside, and we're finally starting to make that move back up to the upside with momentum changing as well. So as once we recapture this 21 EMA on the weekly time frame, I think that the small caps could be a good one to get long in for a long-term play. Just due to them being whacked down so hard, I think they do have potential to make a move back up into at least this old previous consolidation range. So that's the overview of the entire market as a whole. Now I'll get into the 5 plays that I'm actually looking at for the upcoming week. The first one here is going to be Ball. So this one is a play to the upside. We don't have stacked DMAs, but I like its overall structure, and with the market strength right now, I am looking at more longs than shorts. So if we look here, we can see that we've been holding this 21 EMA very nicely, keeps coming down, touching and bouncing, bouncing, bouncing. This daily squeeze has gotten above that zero line on the histogram, and we have some nice bullish momentum. I think that this one could keep pushing to the upside. Ideally want to see it come touch this 8 EMA again for an entry, but this one does look solid to the upside in my opinion. Next one here is Blink. So this one's been hammered down a lot just due to the small caps themselves being hammered down a lot, and I think, as I stated before, it's their time to start making a recovery, and this could be the start of it with this nice daily squeeze setting up. So we do not have stacked DMAs, unfortunately, but that's just because it's been hammered down so far. We were in this nice consolidation phase where we kind of just kept pinging back and forth, and I think that this squeeze could now propel it back up to that upside. So we're holding this 21 EMA nicely here. And with this momentum, I think we could easily start pushing up back to this +3 ATR, or maybe get around that $30 region once again on Blink. Alright, my only short play I have this week, just due to the market potentially still rolling over, is 3M. So if we look here, we have negatively stacked DMAs, nice downtrend here, and we're getting that reversion to the mean. This is your ideal spot to enter either long or short, and this trade would be a short just due to its overall structure, holding below that 21. Our squeeze histogram is still below that 0 line, so this one I think could go retest these previous lows if the market decides to roll over as well. Always look at the overall market as a whole to make sure that they align with the trades you are taking. Alright, next one I'm looking at to the upside here is Marathon Petroleum. I really like this one. This one's probably my favorite play coming into the week. We have positively stacked DMAs. You get this gap up into a consolidation period. It has also filled this gap, and right at this gap is where we are finding support now. So I do like to see that a lot, that we're holding these levels. The squeeze is forming. We're actually in a high compression squeeze, and it's just consolidating, 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 waiting to make that next move to the upside. So this one, in my opinion, is the best setup coming into the week. Ideally, want to see a retest of the 21 or the 8 EMA for an entry, and then I think we easily could go retest these highs at around 81.50ish, and then potentially surpass those with the power of the squeeze, pushing it higher. Last but not least on the list here is T-Mobile. This one's also a trade to the upside. I like how we have the big gap up, and then the strength is just continuing to hold it to that upside, not wanting to actually fill that gap. And then with this squeeze setting up here on the daily time frame, it has great bullish momentum. We have the stacked DMAs. Holding above the 21 EMA, but ideally want to see a retest of that 21, which is where I would take the entry, because it is a slight bit extended to the upside. It's sitting right around that +1 ATR, or even this 8 EMA would probably be good entry in my opinion, due to it showing some good strength here going forward. So these are the plays I'm watching for the upcoming week. Hopefully it gives you all a few other things to add to your own watch list that you could keep your eye on as well. So let's go out there on Monday and start making some money, everybody.